So how can you have difficult conversations with your spouse without it affecting your relationship? And how can those conversations actually make your connection even better? That's the purpose of this video. My amazing wife, Teresa, and I recently did a podcast, and we didn't intend on sharing it here, but really there's several weeks before it comes out, and we wanted to get you guys these strategies right now. We had several people in our community reach out and ask us how we tackle these difficult conversations within our relationship, and we wanted to share the answers with you today. So some of those questions are:
how can you combine differing opinions for the benefit of all? Do you guys ever feel like you don't know what you're doing in life, business, parenting, and relationships, etc.? Do you ever make mistakes? When you do, how do you handle moving forward? Have you ever had to put up really hard boundaries that hurt someone you love but protected yourself? How do you navigate busy seasons as a family? How do you manage the times when work isn't steady and you don't want to impact your family or your home life?
So those are just 6 of the questions that we tackled, but we even went into some more personal and uncomfortable questions that I know that a lot of people want to hear from us, but actually are too little bit uncomfortable to actually ask us. And I got to tell you, they were fire. So here's the thing. I want to be upfront with this. So this video is going to be a longer one. It's different than the other 5-minute videos that I have here on this channel. And it really wasn't made for a video. We actually were doing a podcast and we weren't actually looking at the camera. If that is distracting, definitely wait a couple weeks for this podcast to come out. But we wanted to get you this information right now. So if you're ready to find out the strategies that will make you have even more of a closer connection with your significant other, even when uncomfortable situations come up, this is the video for you. You ready? Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Organized Chaos and Master Your Mindset with Coach Mark. So today I have a special guest, and also I am a special guest on multiple podcasts because my wife and I, Teresa, we are getting together to really knock your socks off and really share a lot of questions that we've been asked recently, but also like in the past, considering we both have businesses, we both have podcasts, we both have coaching platforms. We get a lot of questions that are related to marriage, to relationships, to businesses, to things that are going on at home. We really wanted to bring like a little bit more of a personal touch to this podcast. So this is going to be a special podcast. Might be a little bit longer than normal. We might break it into 2 episodes. Who knows? But we want to get started by welcoming you back to both shows. And you gonna say hi?
Yes. Hi, everybody.
So here's what I did is I went out inside of our programs, inside of or on social media, some of our teammates, some of our life coach certification, school people, coaches, and I really asked them some questions like, hey, what are some questions that you really would like to ask either me, Teresa, or both of us to help you not only in your process of coaching other people, but also just to kind of like get to know us a little bit better, but then also like maybe ask questions that you have never been able to ask us before as we have gone through all of the different growth related things that we've gone through, not only as a couple, but having a premature baby, a preemie, 1 pound, 9 ounces, all those kind of things where we were struggling for a while. And so we had, let's see, how many questions here? Too many. We had 11 questions that people asked us, and we really want to tackle this for you, but then we're also going to have a speed round at the end so that you guys can get an idea of some of the things that, some questions that I came up with that are just a little bit uncomfortable that Teresa and I are going to ask of each other. Now, as we go through this, these questions are not things that we like rehearsed. We just like literally copied and pasted them and wrote them down, but we really want you to hear it like from our hearts, but then also like not have rehearsed or practiced any of these. Okay. So we're going to kind of go back and forth and go down that path. All right. So this first one is for you, right? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to jump in. Teresa's going to ask me a question. I'll go from there and then we'll go down the next path. All right. You ready?
Yeah. All right. So the question is, how can you combine differing opinions, likes, goals, lifestyle, etc., for the benefit of all?
I'd like to phone a friend. Can we do 50-50 here? I don't know. What was that name of that show?
Yeah. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Okay, so how can you combine differing opinions, like goals, lifestyles for the benefits of all? That is a very, very great question. And I think like there's a lot of personal things that my guess is that this person is asking this question because maybe they have some kind of differing of opinions and values. And to be honest, like I really feel that actually elevates your connection between your spouse because you're not supposed to have the exact same of everything, right? You're supposed to be individuals. But I think like when it comes to like how can you combine them, I always like to lead down the path of asking great questions. I mean, everybody who listens to my podcast and is a part of any of my programs knows that that's what it's really all about is like, how can we live in alignment with like my goals, your goals, and combine them and make them like this really amazing piece where in the middle is where we're both like on that path, right? So, and this is the same with leadership too. Like whenever I think about leading at work, I want to ask somebody a question that not only helps them come up to the conclusion of what they want to do and how it's going to benefit them, but also how it's going to benefit the team. And I really just think having good conversation, really getting an opportunity to ask great questions, and really coming to the table with like an open mind, right? Because if you have a closed mind, you're not going to really be willing to listen to the other person. But just asking questions like, hey, if we were to sit down and we were to have like what these specific goals would look like for us, before we even dive into that, let's think about what your specific goals are. Like just thinking about it in terms of you, what are your specific goals and what you want to achieve? And then I can explain and describe what I want to achieve. And let's see where like that crosses, like where that mixes in the middle, where we can both be working on the same page, but also guess what? You get to work on a different page too, right? I think so many people think that like marriage means you have to always be on the same page as the other person. And it's not the case at all. I mean, it's you're individuals for a reason. You have your different strengths and weaknesses and all those kind of things, right? So I think like feeling like you have to always agree on everything I don't think it's a healthy place to be, because we're humans and we should all have our own opinions and stuff like that. But at the same time, meeting in the middle, I think is a powerful thing. And it's just, I think, asking great questions. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. And I think, there's conflict, some kind of conflict is healthy, right? Because it gives you an opportunity to communicate better. And like you said, I think the key is communication and also being open to the other person's opinions or whatever that may be. So yeah.
Okay, great. Cool. All right, let's go to the next one. By the way, you need to talk louder. I'm looking at the things here and I'm blowing up and then you're like far away. Okay.
Sorry.
So do you ever feel like you don't know what you're doing? Whether it's in life, in business, parenting, relationships, all those kind of things where you feel like, I guess kind of like an imposter, like you're being an imposter in that area.
Yes. Next. Yes, absolutely. I think we all at some point in our lives feel this way. And then, a lot of times it's when we're first starting out. But, it could be at every different season of your life. I mean, it was hard for us to, have babies, and take care of babies. And it felt like we didn't know what we're doing. We didn't know what we're doing, especially because we kind of got like, when we had Andrew early, we weren't ready. And I don't think we would ever have been ready, but I think that every season brings new challenges and we'll always feel like we don't know what we're doing. Right now, we don't know what we're doing. The kids are teenagers. So yes, I feel that way many times. I feel that way when I start something new. And I think that's just a part of life. But I think that what we can do is accept the fact that we have maybe, like you said, imposter syndrome. And, a lot of people feel that way. You're not alone. But it's about like what you're going to do in response to that. Like, how are you going to use that to move you forward? Right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't want it to be something that is going to debilitate you or keep you from moving forward and making progress. So it's about understanding that, yes, it's normal to feel like you don't know what you're doing in any aspect of your life, but it's about making the choice to move forward, decide on what you're going to do, and then that's it.
I love that. I love that. Love that. And one of the things that I think about too when I hear this is, if you're not feeling like an imposter, if you're not feeling like you don't have it all together, you don't know what you're doing, like you're not on the right track, because I think that like it's such an important piece to continue to grow. And if you're growing, that means you're doing new things. If you're doing new things, you're starting to become a different person, and that's the part of the process. And if you actually feel like you have it all marked down, like and you have everything like all your ducks in a row, I feel like you kind of stop growing. So yeah, I think it's actually the opposite.
Great point.
Do you ever make mistakes? I'm going to answer for her. She says no. She doesn't. No. Do you ever make mistakes? And when you do, how do you handle that moving forward?
I think this is similar to the last question. Yes, of course. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. I mean, I can think about a million different mistakes that I made just this morning. That's just a part of life. Of course, we all make mistakes. The way that I handle it is that, just like before, you just accept that you do that. So what am I going to do moving forward? Okay, is this a mistake that can be taken care of? That's just a small mistake that I can make tweaks on and then just go on with my day, right? Or is it a bigger mistake that I have to analyze a bit more and say, you know what, I'm human. We all make mistakes, but how am I going to move forward from here? What do I need to make a change? Do I need to, analyze what happened so that it doesn't occur again, right?
Yeah. I love that. And I'm sure you guys can hear the the gardener in the background because there's a mistake. Guys, mistakes are part of life. Mistakes are a part of life. And the quicker you grow from them, they're kind of there for a reason, right? They're there to teach you something. So I love that. I love that. Okay.
So have you ever had to put up really hard boundaries that quote unquote hurt someone you love, but protected yourself?
Okay, so this one I'm going to take a little bit of a different spin. The answer is yes, and I'm not going to give this actual personal situation that we had to go through, but I'll tell you some of the, a little bit of the background, but also this idea of feeling like you're hurting someone else. You can't hurt somebody else. I mean, you could physically hurt them, but if you make a decision on a boundary, it's not that you set a boundary that it hurts them. It's their interpretation of your boundary. And so I think a lot of times, like when I set boundaries, I make sure that I'm very specific about why I'm setting the boundary, how it is like going to be something that's going to be done for me, but it's also done for the other person. It's also the reason why I literally go through the process of creating boundaries inside of my Ideal Leader Blueprint, because there's actually a system that you have to follow to make sure that you do this right. So you're not setting it up out of anger or frustration, and then you create resentment. Like literally boundaries are supposed to be for everybody. All right. They're supposed to be for everybody. And have I had to do that? Yes, I've had to do that even with family. And it was a very difficult situation that required me even getting outside opinions and advice and direction from to make sure that I set the boundary in the right way. Now, did it quote unquote hurt? Absolutely. It hurt. But I also know that when I think about the reasons why I put it in place and what I was doing to actually protect, in this specific instance, my kids, it actually gives me a lot more power. I mean, your life is 50-50. We talk about this a lot, right? So there's 50% positive experiences and 50% negative experiences. The more that you focus on the negative and how it hurts and how all those things, like you literally will like not only keep experiencing it over and over again as you think about it, but you don't realize how what you focus on grows, right? Instead of focusing on what you're taking away as a result of the boundary, how are you thinking about reframing all that you're able to do now because you have a boundary? How does it protect you and the other person and actually make your relationship stronger because now you have a boundary? The truth is you always have positives and negative things that are happening as a result of a boundary. So for me, I choose to focus on the positive. And when I think about that, it actually helps me protect the boundary even more, because boundaries are usually, they're not there because they're easy, right? It's because typically somebody has overstepped their bounds, right? So it's not supposed to be easy, but at the same time, if you focus your time and attention on what you get from having that boundary and you're doing it from a place of love and compassion, you're not setting the boundary to piss somebody off or to get back at them. Ultimately, a boundary is going to be great for everybody and it's not going to hurt the other person.
I love that you framed it that way, because when we think of boundaries, we think something went wrong and we have to put that barrier, right? But I think that seeing it from a perspective of this can make the relationship stronger, but also at the same time, if it doesn't, if that relationship breaks and maybe you just don't have a relationship, but that's okay because you respected those values that you have, and you set that boundary and you focused on yourself. And, like you said, you can't hurt someone, when you are protecting yourself. It has to do with them.
Okay. Next one.
Have you ever felt like you didn't belong? Did you choose your hard and push through it until you became successful? Or did you feel totally confident in your business and ability to make six figures?
This is a really great question. And by the way, every single one of these questions, I really appreciate you guys for reaching out and being a little bit vulnerable and asking these questions, because obviously it's based off of something that you personally have gone through. So did I ever feel like I don't belong? I actually feel like I don't belong a lot. I remember my mentor, Josh Coates, talks about this, and he talks about like, if you feel like you fit and belong in the room, sometimes you're in the wrong room. Like oftentimes it's so much more powerful to be in a room of people where you don't feel like you fit in. So for me personally, when I was going through the process of creating a six-figure business, I was putting myself into rooms of people who are 6 and 7 figure business owners. I did not feel like I fit in. But what's incredible is when you don't feel like you fit in, just how accountability works, you just start to take on the not only the actions, but the thoughts, the beliefs, the stories as the other people that are in that room. And because of that, it actually gets you to fit into that room, only for you to get to that point and go, okay, where's the next room that I need to get to? So I really feel like this idea of thinking that you belong is actually something that can hold us back. Like we have to feel like everybody else is like us or we're like everybody else before we can feel like we can be a part of that community. And especially now more than ever, like I try to get into rooms that have people who aren't the same sex as me. Like I try to get in as much as possible so that way I can like literally experience things that I wouldn't be able to experience if there were just more people like me. Like, think about this, guys. I am a police officer. I'm a sergeant from LAPD. I have 20 years on. I'm leaving my job early to become a life coach. Trust me when I say that I don't fit in as a life coach being a police officer, because not many people are willing to leave their police career when that's what they've done their entire life, even before they can start pulling out from their pension. But they've made a decision like, nope, I'm going to go down this path and I'm going to become this incredible life coach that's going to be able to impact people with their leadership and their coaching abilities. That doesn't make me fit in, but as a matter of fact, like I kind of glad that I don't fit in, because I, just like Josh says, why would you be the second version of somebody else when the first version of you is always available, right? And it just feels so much more authentic when you get to be the real you. You don't have to try and fit in. You just get to be yourself. It's just a great feeling that, you know, it's like I could be my authentic self and it doesn't matter that I don't fit in. As a matter of fact, the reason why people come and find me is because I don't fit in. And that is such a powerful thing to think about and a way to reframe it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a great perspective because it's really human nature to want to belong, right? It's just a part of being a human. So you saying, no, I'm going to go against my human nature and put myself in situations, put myself into groups where I don't feel like I fit in so that I can grow into the person that I want to be. I think that's a really great perspective.
It actually kind of just brought up something too. And I'm not going to cuss because I don't think you can cuss on your podcast. Can you?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. So, but like, it's not, when I say this, guys, I don't mean that it's easy to do that. It is super easy for me to just like hang around with other people who act like, have the same job, have the same career, are at the same rank as me. It is super easy to do that. The hard thing is to put yourself into an environment where you don't feel like you fit in. That is where the growth is. And that's why like I reframe it. So when I have those situations where I'm like the other day, I gave a presentation to 67 different homicide detectives. And these people, like they see the worst of the worst, and they're actually the best of the best when it comes to investigators. I did not feel like I fit in, but I kind of leaned into that anyway, because I knew it was going to be the greatest opportunity that I have to really connect with them after they've given so much to their career that I wanted to be able to give back to them. And it was because I felt uncomfortable. I was like, okay, I'm in the right place. It's like, you think that you realize that when you have that feeling that you're not in the right room, you actually know that you're in the right room, right? And so that's the reframe that I take, is instead of looking for rooms that I feel like I fit in, I look for rooms where I feel like I don't, and I experience so much growth as a result of it. And I always come back going, man, I'm so glad that I did that. But it still doesn't make it any easier.
I love that.
Question number 6, Teresa, how do you navigate busy seasons? This person wrote, when I have a new launch, because they own their own business. So when I have a new launch, I feel like I go in an entire week without any one-on-one time with my husband, and I'm not sure how to navigate it. So I know you're like the expert when it comes to like clarity and intentionality and really maximizing your time. So what would you say about how do you navigate busy seasons like that?
Yeah, and it sounds like they might be a little bit like you, where you go all in, right? And there's a time and place to do that, and it's okay. There's this mentality that we have sometimes that we have to have complete balance all the time. And that's not possible. It's absolutely not possible to have balance. So when people say, oh, I just want work-life balance, well, it's not really achievable. So the next thing that you can do is just to kind of harmonize things. So I think that what she was asking was like, how do I handle it? Which is a great problem to have, right? To have a launch and to be able to have a business that you can scale and everything like that, and going through those moments. But I think that you kind of have to just put like on paper, like, okay, so what are my priorities now? What season of life am I in? What is most important? And what do I want to make sure that I don't let fall through the cracks, right? Because yes, you can have a lunch, but it doesn't mean it has to take over your life for a week or however long, right? So you want to set boundaries for yourself and understand that you don't have to go all the way in, meaning that you have to spend all the time in the world on this one launch. Like, set boundaries for yourself. Like, what is the most that I can do where I can still take care of myself? I can still take care of my family. It will feel like you're off balance a little bit because you're putting a lot more focus on a particular area, but it just means that it's going to be temporary. So you just, be real with yourself and understand that, you may feel a little off balance, but then also communicating. So if you have your family and you're going to have this big launch, like, say, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm going to be putting like a more focus on this particular launch because I really need it to go well. And these are the things that I have to do, but I'm going to set boundaries for myself and I'm going to make sure that I'm going to be spending time with, this much time with you guys. And, this is going to get done. I'm going to delegate this. So does that make sense?
It does. And I love all of that, especially that last piece. I was kind of thinking about that as you were having that conversation. It's just really about communication, right? So at times when you can't be, you have to be more at work, right? So I remember during those riot times, I had to spend 13 days there straight, but making sure that you knew, like, hey, when I was driving home, I was going to be on the phone and we were going to be able to have a conversation because we necessarily couldn't have it when I got home and when I went to bed. But one other piece to this that I was kind of thinking about, and I've realized that I've kind of gotten a little bit better than this than when I first started, is like I actually get the family involved in that. So one of the things that I did is I actually got the kids involved by saying, hey guys, this is what we're going to do. This is this new program that I have. This is the program that this is what it's going to do for people. This is why people want to buy it. This is how it's going to actually help them become better parents or leaders or whatever. And here's what I want to do. If we sell more than 40 of these, this is what we're going to be able to do as a family. If we sell more than 50 of these, this is what we're going to be able to get. If we sell more than 75 of these, so I actually get their buy-in. And so my daughter, especially, she's like, Dad, have you sold any? And I'm like, I've sold this many. And she's like, well, why don't you get back in there and sell more? And I'm like, come on, it's family time right now. But like, it brings them into the mix. And it also kind of shares like how your business actually helps people and how it helps solve a problem and how it helps their mommies and daddies, elevate their, whether it's their leadership, their parenting or whatever. It kind of gives them a glimpse into your business and they realize that you just are there to help solve problems and it gets them to buy in. So that was one thing that I thought of.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Okay. Next one, this is kind of similar, is like, how do you manage the times when work isn't steady and you don't want it to impact your family or home life? Now, my guess is like, what they mean is like, if you're not bringing in as much money as you maybe were on different seasons, and you're trying to make it so that it doesn't have like a direct impact on your family or home life, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all depends on whether you have, if you know far enough in advance that there is going to be kind of like a dip in whether it's income or maybe time. And just understanding that whether you know in advance or not, that it's kind of temporary, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that, when you're in the thick of it, it can feel, that 50% of the negative experience. But know that there's so much more that your family is about and your life is about than, let's say, income or work. Mm-hmm. Like, your life is more than just work and income. Mm-hmm. It's whatever you want it to be. So I think that no matter what, your focus, if your family's a priority, your home life is a priority, then you have control over that. So whether or not that's, it's steady or not, like, make sure that your home life and family life is steady and you set that up.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I want to add something to this too, because as you're kind of like, and this is why I love doing podcasts with you, because as you're talking, like, my brain is kind of like, I grab onto something that you kind of like share, and then I'm like, okay, let's go down this path too. So it gives me a chance to like really think about this. But when you come to terms, the person like, when you're in this kind of situation, it's kind of like a little bit I don't know. I guess it can feel like the weight of the world is on you, right? I know for me personally, I'm not in this exact situation, but in 4 months from now, like I say retire from the LAPD. They don't let you retire unless you're 50. So when I'm 45, I leave the department and they don't have any pension or anything for 5 years until I turn 50. And so I have to be able to sustain myself with just the business. And, we had Teresa come home from leave her full-time job. And now I'm going to leave my full-time job. And now going from this place where we both had W-2, I want to say stable, but that's like a false thing to even say. But like we had W-2 stable every other week getting money to like now everything is relying on our business. It's going to put a little bit different of a strain, and it's something that we know that we're going to experience, and we've been able to try and like adjust things on the beforehand before we get to that point, because we know that's going to actually happen, right? When you have that less money coming in. But maybe you don't have that situation. You don't have that extra time to really think about it. And that's really where two things I want to talk about. Number one is head versus heart, okay? Head versus heart is if you keep thinking about the lack, the scarcity, the fear, all of those kind of things, you're actually not going to be able to generate more income. It's not going to come naturally because you're not going to be attracting it. You're not going to be attracting it. You're going to have these really desperate feelings that you're putting out there. Is going to create desperate actions, and those desperate actions are not going to attract the right people. So really focusing on your heart voice at this point in terms of like, hey, this is actually a great opportunity for me to step into and really be able to like find different avenues that I can really excel at. Maybe connect with some people and ask for some help. Ask for some people to give you some resources. Like this is actually a really, really great opportunity to grow through it. I know one of the things that we always get kind of caught up in is asking for help, right? Asking for help. And like there's people that are around you most likely who would be willing to help, whether it's, do some work for them or to be able to help support you through this. Like there's so many different people out there that have that like desire to want to help people, but you have to ask them, right? You have to ask them. And really like leaning into that of like, you know what, this is the struggle that we're going through. And even though right now it doesn't feel great, I know going through this struggle is going to make us stronger, not only stronger as a couple and as a family, but we're going to come out stronger on the other end. And guess what we're going to be able to do? Come back and help people who are here right now too. Mm-hmm. It's just a different level. It's called hope. And it's really where your heart voice comes from. Focusing on that is going to attract those kind of people who do want to pay you money, who do want to help you, who do want to like take it to the next level, right, with you. And it's just, it doesn't have anything to do with the outside of the fact that you're in a tough situation. It's really the heart, the voice that you actually speak or listen to. Okay. So, this is something we dive into deeper into our life coach certification, but really it's the situation on the outside does not dictate what happens on the inside. We get to decide what that is. And then from there, we get to manifest one direction or the other, not because just automatically we'll get it, but because we will actually go out and take the actions we need to take to actually generate that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which one we're on?
We're on this one. Okay. That's me. I ask you that question. Okay. So how do you come to terms on family events / gatherings while working around your work schedule?
This is a great question. So, so let me just say a couple pieces about this. So it talks about family events and gatherings. So a little bit similar to this is back before I owned a business, back before I was taking care of my health much. I was going out and doing a lot of different things, much more than I do now with friends. I would play softball. I would do fantasy football. I would play poker. I would do all of these kind of things. And when I realized that by doing that, I wasn't able to do those other things in my life that I really wanted to do, like build a business, really connect with Teresa and connect with the kids, and rise through the ranks through LAPD without being overwhelmed, I realized that some stuff had to give. And so I sat down, I figured out what those things are, and I slowly reduced them or eliminated them for those other things. And it's funny is because I thought at the time that I was going to really miss them. And honestly, I don't. I don't miss them. I had really great times in that specific moment, but I find that like now I actually enjoy the things I'm doing now even more. So I wanted to give that caveat because that is similar to the whole family thing. But when you have family involved, sometimes it can get a little bit more difficult. So when I see this, when you're asking like, hey, how can you come to terms of family events or gatherings? It's really figuring out how to do it. If you decide that, hey, you know what, I do want to get together with family, I do want to have gatherings, I do want to, like, figuring out a way of how it's going to work around your work schedule or your busy or crazy or whatever kind of life that you have going on. If it's really important, you can ask yourself a question of like, how might I be able to get together with them, maybe for a shorter period of time, maybe on a specific day or whatever, maybe on Zoom, right? I mean, there's so many different avenues now that you really didn't have before, that you could actually get to spend time with them and still show up in those other areas. But really identifying like, hey, if that is something that you really want to do, communicating once again, the reasons why you're doing that, right? And a lot of times, I don't know if people realize this, but even this is important even as a leader, is when you make a decision and you tell people to go in a certain direction, you need to tell them why. Because if you don't tell them why, they will come up with a decision or your why for you. And most often than not, it's not going to be something that you're going to like when it comes to the reasoning behind it. If you say, hey, we're doing this, people, we're doing this is the direction we're going, or I'm just going to have to skip out on some of the different family gatherings. If you don't explain the why, they're going to think, well, they must not like me, or there must be something else going on, or they must want to do it. It's just the way that our brains work. We want to know why. And if we don't know why, we come up with our own decisions. And so if you have that where you're like, you know what, I used to spend every single weekend with my family. I used to do this and this and this. Find out a way of like how you could spend some of that time with them without pulling away from those other areas. But at the same time, communicate with them to let them know, hey, you know what? You really are special to me. You really are important to me. And I have this other thing going on over here that I want to put time and energy and effort into, but I don't want to sacrifice my time with you. So what do you think about doing this? Or even just asking them like, hey, what do you think would be a good solution to this, so that you can come up with that and actually be able to spend time with them and still excel in those other areas. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Next one.
Okay, so how would you crawl back from a loss of status, like something went wrong at your job, loss of business, relationship, all at once?
Okay, so I'm gonna show the difference between a coach and a therapist. Okay, because this is super important and powerful. Okay, because a lot of people come to me being a master coach, being somebody who owns a life coach school, and they try to get me to coach them through these situations. And a coach is not somebody who's qualified to take somebody through a very traumatic past incident or an incident that just recently happened. So when it comes to a coach, let's just start off with that. What a coach does is somebody who's moving forward, somebody who's progressing, they help speed up that process so that they can take their actions and also take their results to the next level. Basically, they take somebody from a certain speed and they speed up that process for them. It's like how you have a basketball coach, right? So you have a player who is capable of playing basketball, but the coach is going to be there to help them become even better at playing basketball. They wouldn't hold themselves to that same standard or be doing those things or being taught those things if their coach wasn't there. But if you have somebody who has a broken arm, you're not going to tell them to go to a coach and have the coach help them, right? You're going to say, you need a specialist, go to the doctor. And that's really what a therapist is. A therapist is somebody who could spend time, generally a lot of that time is in the past, where they can help like unwind some situations that have happened. Anytime I've had situations in the past where whether it's something traumatic on duty or something from home, or even what I was talking about earlier about those boundaries, that was a very, very tough situation for me. And honestly, I didn't feel like I could move forward on my own. I went to go to a therapist. Now at LAPD, we are super we're taken care of. We have this place called BSS. It's Behavior Science Services. We literally have police psychologists who know what it's like to be in this police career that you can go to and you can see for free. I've gone at least 6 times. Every time I've come back better and stronger than I was before, including when our son Andrew was in the NICU for 73 days. I don't know how I would have been able to get through that. I probably would have just suppressed it and just tried to move on, and it would have been buried inside of me. But instead, this person who actually had the skills to pull it out was able to help me through it. And then, of course, once I did that, guess what I did? I got a coach, and I helped actually speed up that process. Now, that being said, when you're in the process of going through therapy, you could potentially also have a coach at the same time, depending on the specific situation. And the reason why I bring this up is because I have people who go through like one of my coaching programs and they are in therapy at the same time. And I've actually had their therapist reach out to me and say, I just appreciate you for taking them and really like helping them through this process, because it actually has helped a lot out while they're going through therapy. So you can go to both at the same time. But if you're stuck in something, if you've gone through a traumatic experience, you've had a divorce, you've had somebody who's died in the family and it just something that's totally consuming you for longer than you want to like hold it inside, go to a therapist. Go out, find somebody, really get them to unlock that. They've got the skills. And a lot of these things can even be online right now. So anytime you experience things like that, don't think that you should muscle through it. Don't think that a coach can help you get through it. Don't think just talking to your family will help you get through it. Go out and seek professional help, and I promise you'll be stronger afterwards.
Yeah, that's a great point. Now, I mean, we had these questions and we can't necessarily answer all of them. So I think it was really great that you tell people what our limits are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Oh, it's me? Am I saying it?
Yeah.
No.
No, that's you answering.
Okay, you got to ask me then.
Oh, sorry. Right.
Mistakes. You don't make mistakes, remember?
Right. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. At what point did you decide to make the change from policing, and why?
Okay, so these last two questions, I'm going to kind of answer them at the same time. So one is like, at what point do you decide to make the change from policing, and why? And the next question is, what advice would you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming a law enforcement officer or a police officer? I'm going to answer both of these simultaneously. And I want to make sure that I relate this to everybody who's listening, because I know there's going to be some police officers listening, but maybe you have a different profession, or maybe you have a business, or maybe you have something else that you're kind of like stepping into, and you're kind of like wondering like, hey, I'm thinking about making this decision to change. I actually did a video on my YouTube channel. By the way, special shout out, Modern Leadership. Hook up YouTube, go to YouTube, Modern Leadership, subscribe, slam that bell button. That's what Mr. Beast told me to say. And definitely dive into the leadership lessons that I'm teaching there. But I talked a little bit about this idea of when is the right time to leave your job? When is the right time to leave your job? Now, I don't mean like people leaving their job, but maybe like a position that you're in, maybe like switching divisions if you're in law enforcement. Maybe it's like, it's anytime you got to make a change that's significant like that. There's a couple things that I do. Number one is I put together a pro and a cons list, okay? A pros and a cons list. Because here's the thing, ultimately, nobody's going to be able to make this decision. You really know in your heart what decision it is that you want to make, but being able to see it as a pros and cons is super important. Once you see it as pros and cons, though, I want you to understand a couple things, and this is going to be a mindset shift, all right? Number one is there's no right or wrong decision. There's no right or wrong decision. It's whatever decision you decide, that is the right decision based off of the information that you have right now. What you can't do is you can't make a decision now, go down that path, and then later get some new information and then beat yourself up with that because you knew something new. And if you had to, you could go back in the past, you would change it, because that is not going to help you at all. Instead, really think about like, what is my heart telling me now? What is it like literally telling me that is like, this is the true direction that I need to go? Yes, I've seen the pros and cons. I've written it out on paper, and I'm ready to go and make the decision to go in this way. And this is the decision that I'm going to stick to. But it's also something that you can think about this way too, guys, is guess what? If you do get new information, you could decide to change at any specific moment. I do want you to step into one, and I want you to go through that uncomfortableness, right? But remember that you get to make a decision either way, which direction you're going to go. Now, for me personally, my decision is a little bit more aggressive because I'm leaving, like I said, a police career that I've literally built up for 20 years. And I'm going into a credible opportunity by being a life coach and a coach for leaders. And when I think about it, yes, I have like this stable job, I have like benefits, and that would be the safe thing for me to do. But when I feel like I was put here on this planet to do is really help out a massive number of people. And yes, I can do that in the police field, but what if I could do that for other people who are police officers, and I could help multiply what I'm doing to them? I could teach them how to lead, how to coach, how to use the skills that I've been able to develop, and at the same time, do this from home without having to be called in on the weekends, work overtime, like get called for deployments, and do all of these extra things that pulls me out of alignment from the things that I really want to do, which is show up for my family, show up for my people that I help coach, show up for my leaders, and really show up for myself. And so when I think about this, it pulls me in the direction of this is the right time to go. Now, I got to say, like even last night, I woke up in the middle of the night and my head voice is trying to tell me, but Mark, you got to be safe. You got to just stay over there. How about just 5 more years and then you can actually get and finish your pension and do all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, it's trying to keep me safe. It's trying to get me to go back into those patterns. But I also know that I can lead into my heart. And my heart is telling me this is the right move with the information that you have. This is how you make the biggest impact. So it's the decision that I made, and it's a decision that I'm going to stand behind, okay? So now for somebody who's thinking about joining the Leo field, it probably also ends, or it also can be wrapped into what I just said. But at the end of that last question was, why are you leaving the police field? Here's the thing, guys. I don't want to deter anybody from whatever job, whatever career, whatever calling that you have. Being a police officer was an incredible experience for me. It was something that I needed to experience, and I grew through, and I learned so many things, and I wouldn't do it any differently if I had to do it again. I would do the same exact thing. I love policing. I love investigating. I love helping people. I really love solving crimes. I really love solving problems. And really, like, that is like what I've been doing for like the last, 40 something years. Even though I'm only 44 now, I feel like I've been doing that ever since I was young. So if that is like your passion, if your passion is for doing that, lead into it. Just lean into your heart and really go through that process. Whatever happens after that, that's just the way that life is supposed to be, right? If you ultimately get the job, you don't get the job, you love the job, you don't love the job, like that's a part of life and part of you experiencing it. But I also know that like right now, the police field, we need people who are interested in doing that stuff. We need people who are willing to do the things that I've been doing for 20 plus years, right? And really making a huge impact in people's lives. So I don't want to minimize it and say that police work is not a good line of work to do, because it is. I would do this all over again, and I would jump in and I would go through that process myself, because I know just how much, not only the impact that I made, but who it made me into. It made me into who I am today. And I don't think I would be that same person if I had just gone down the path of being a life coach. So if you're feeling compelled to be a police officer, do it. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. It's the path for you. And if at some point you make a decision like I did, hey, you know what? There's this different path that you can go down. Definitely go down that path. Now, I do want to say one caveat is for me personally, I developed an autoimmune. It's called Crohn's disease. It's not something that happened just because of my career. It actually was, it's a disease that you have like the genetic makeup of that disease. And if you're under enough stress, enough like, you're in the wrong environment, you're like your body reacts to that environment, it could be activated. And that's what happened with me. So one of the main reasons why I'm pulling out of police work is because I can't tell you how often I wake up in the morning and I'm exhausted and I feel terrible and my stomach hurts and I have all of these other Crohn's disease kind of like related things, and I have to force myself to go through the process of going to work. So not only is it like that first part that I was talking about where I'm like really interested in making the biggest impact, but also it's impacting me and my life and also my longevity. So I want to do whatever I can to stay here as long as possible, to be next to this woman for the rest of my life, and do whatever I can to make that happen, even if that means that I have to feel uncomfortable. I have to leave something that I really do love and I really do enjoy, but it's also like gives me a great opportunity to really help take this life coaching thing. I mean, we have 82 life coaches that I have taught with my mentor, Josh. And this is literally just the beginning. We are going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of push coaches out there who are creating massive results in their lives and in their clients' lives. And like, I'm so excited and pumped up to do that, not only for people who want to own a business, but also people in the police field. So that's what I'll have to end with. And that was a super long one. What do you think?
That was great.
Okay.
I mean, you have the experience to really answer those questions well. So,
okay. Want to go in the speed round?
Okay.
Okay. So it's already been, how long has it been? It's been 42 minutes. We're going to go for a little bit longer, guys. We're going to do what's called the speed round. And that is like, we're going to ask each other really uncomfortable questions to really see, you guys get to see a little bit of I don't know, how we, not only live our lives, but how we, like, I guess, bounce back and forth from each other and some of the things that maybe are a little bit personal that you guys don't know about us. And these are some of the questions that we came up with. So you want to go first?
Okay. So I kept looking at this question and I think we have to just reword it.
Okay, go ahead.
So if you were to ask me what annoys me about you, what would you say? I think that's what it is, right?
No. Okay. So here's the question. All right. So the question is, okay, if, what is it that you think you do that annoys me?
Oh.
What is it that you do that you think annoys me? I'll do it in reverse. So,
okay.
So
I was so confused.
Okay, so here's what
You
really
start
annoys. Yes, here's what really annoys Teresa that I do, and I try to not do it, but I'm terrible at it. I'm going to say two things. Number one is anytime I wash my hands or wash my face, it's like a tidal wave goes all over the counter. And every time I try to clean it up and Teresa looks at me with this look on her face, like, are you serious? The second thing is like whenever I'm like pouring something, whether it's like a supplement or whatever, I like literally get done. I go about my day and there's like this huge pile of like chocolate powder that I leave. I try to remember, but for some reason I can't do that. And I know that it's like frustrating and I'm going to work on that. But that's one thing that I do.
You know what happens when, especially with that one, it's like my head voice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, he doesn't care. He doesn't care that I just cleaned this countertop. And I spent my time like really deep cleaning it. And he just left it. He just, okay. But that's not true, right? Because I know you wouldn't do that on purpose. Okay.
I don't.
So what do I think annoys you about me?
Mm-hmm.
I think probably the chewing when I eat. And what else? What else would it be? Maybe when I kind of like smack you. Like when you say something and I just like smack you. I don't know why I do that still. Maybe that annoys me.
No, it actually doesn't.
Okay.
It actually doesn't.
Do you want to clarify?
No, I don't want to clarify. Let's move on. But
Hey, that's
I was
not fair.
No, but I was kind of thinking about that. I'm like, what is she going to say? And then you were like, the chewing. Okay, I'm not going to lie. I don't know. Maybe it's just the circumference of your mouth, but it sounds like you're eating rocks. Okay. What? Anyway, let's move on to the next one. Okay, what's something that most people don't know about you? What's something that most people don't know about you?
I don't know. I think maybe that I'm Latina.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't like ever pop up, but maybe because they see my last name, they think otherwise. I don't know.
I like it. I like it. And I think that could be used for you because then people can speak Spanish in front of you and they don't know that you understand Spanish. Mm-hmm. But that actually works for me too because I do understand a lot of it, even though I don't tell your mom about it.
She knows.
So what's something most people don't know about me? Okay, I'm like I got an addictive personality, and it kind of runs in my family. My addictive personality gets me into video games. So I get like super into video games. Right now I'm playing like Elden Ring and I have like competitions going on with my son. And I spend a lot of time doing that where I'm just like, hey, I'm just going to chill for a little bit. I'm going to play for like a couple hours. And I think that's what some people don't know about me. They see like the things that I do in terms of the life coaching and then the school that we have and then policing. And so they think like maybe like I'm busy all the time. But I like mess around and do all that kind of stuff a lot more often than people think. And I think video games is like my big thing.
I don't think it's addictive as much as it is you're passionate. Like when you're interested in something, you're passionate about it. So that it may seem like you're addicted to it, but it's just that, you really put everything you have into something that you're doing. So
we were kind of talking about that. Like that's my greatest strength and my greatest weakness is I just don't go half in. I was actually in the process of like wanting to buy a new video camcorder, not a camcorder, but like a camera to really help not only level up my YouTube videos, but also level up like the podcasting videos. And I like literally went in, I went all in. I started researching it all. I started to ask Kurt, who's my video and audio guy. Like I literally was like diving into like a million different things. And I don't just like tiptoe. I go all in with like everything to the point where Teresa's like, are you just going to buy it or what? Cause like literally your whole life is taken over by this thing right now. Okay. So what is your favorite thing to do? She's thinking.
Maybe you answer that question for me. Cause sometimes I'm not very.
Okay. I'll do it.
Analytical when it comes to that stuff.
Organized chaos. So like that first word organized, that is like your zone. I notice that like whenever you're feeling overwhelmed, whenever you're like, I just need to do something, you start organizing things. Like you start on the closet. You start, right now she has this really, what is that vacuum called? Loom?
Loop.
Lupe. Literally, she's like waiting for the kids to drop crumbs so she can grab it. And she like she's like to the point where she loves to organize. And when she does, she's like in her zone. She'll be like, yeah, I'm just going to do this little piece. And before I know it, like everything is out of the closet and it's like alphabetized and colortized.
That's what you do when you organize.
Not when I do it. Maybe that's because that's why it's your thing. But like, I think everything flows through this organization thing for you. And yeah, I can tell that you love doing that. So, okay. So what is my favorite thing to do then? What do you think?
Planning?
Oh, okay. What do you
Yeah, planning. I mean, you're the planner. If we ever have a vacation, like you take charge. You're like, okay, where are we going this quarter or whatever? And, we decided we're going to go to San Diego. And you plan everything. You set up the hotel. You set up, if it's a rental car, then you do that. You have an itinerary of what we're going to do each day. It's like, oh.
Okay, so if you hadn't
Maybe
heard,
that's my pet
that's
peeve
the pet
too.
peeve. Let's go back to that last question. Okay, what's your biggest pet peeve? That is me. Like I do have OCD. So I literally have to know everything that's going to happen. And what's crazy is like, what do you call that time when you just decide on the fly? What is it called? When you're
You don't even
spontaneous?
know.
Yeah, there's that word. When you're spontaneous, I literally have to plan to be spontaneous. Is this weird? I'm like,
Can't even
okay,
come up with a word.
I
You
need
don't-
to be spontaneous between this time and this time. Like, I don't know. It's just the way my brain works. That's maybe one thing that people don't know about me is I do have OCD, so I need to make sure everything is planned to the T. However, when I'm making my smoothies, it doesn't mean that I have to be completely organized and not throw things on the on the countertop. All right. What is your least favorite thing to do? What is your least favorite thing to do?
My least favorite thing. I don't know. My least favorite thing to do. Laundry, maybe, I guess.
Laundry?
Yeah.
Think laundry?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about this too. Like, my least favorite thing to do, one of the things that I really don't enjoy too much is social media. Which is funny because I have a social media business, but I actually I have an amazing team who allows me to take a step back from that. But it's definitely not something that I enjoy. Being an introvert, and I know a lot of people don't think I am, like I don't like to get into messaging. I don't like to get into like a ton of different one-on-one conversations. I can hold like a few of them, and I actually enjoy that. But when it's like a much bigger scale, I don't really enjoy doing that. I kind of like to be that person who's in the back of the room, who's soaking it all in, and is not the front person who's in attention, which is weird because of the position that I'm in right now, being a speaker in a book writer and all this kind of stuff. Like, it's weird being in that position. So I guess I would have to say like being the center of attention is probably something that I like the least, which is kind of weird, but I guess it is. What do you think for you? Anything?
What I said, laundry.
Okay.
Putting laundry away, probably.
Oh, putting laundry away.
Actually, cleaning the clothes,
Yeah.
I enjoy.
Yeah.
But putting it away, I do not enjoy.
Well, I mean, our washer and dryer are awesome.
I know.
Like literally they do the whole thing, but yeah, you're right. Okay. If you had the chance to sit down with the 18-year-old version of you, what advice would you give yourself? Whether it's about marriage, work, family, what advice would you give about life that you think you really wish that you had known back when you were 18? Silence. Do you want me to go first while you think? Okay, well, let me think then.
We could cut
What advice would I have? So, I think just knowing that everything is going to work out the way that it's supposed to. I think that is a piece of advice that I wish I had known back then, because I was like trying to force things. I was trying to think that like I had total control over everything and whether or not I'm going to be successful. And I mean, there is a certain thing when it comes to like ownership, but just realizing like that things are going to work out the way that they're supposed to work out, I think would have given me less pressure. I mean, for me, I've always had a job ever since I was 14, and I really feel like I had a lot of pressure, and it was a lot of pressure that was being put, that I was putting on myself to really show up and perform and all that kind of stuff and make money and be able to have food for the house and stuff like that. But I feel like that pressure was actually something that actually didn't help me as much as it hurt me. And really just telling myself like, hey, you know what? It's all going to work out in the end. It's going to be exactly the way that it's supposed to be. Stop stressing about it so much. Just like go with the flow. It's going to all work out. I think that's something that I really wish I would have known back then.
Yeah, I think maybe for myself, it's along those lines too, is that things will work out. But really, like, just seeing my life now is because back in that time, it was a hard time for me. And knowing that, like, what my life is like now, it's kind of like things will work out. And actually, they're going to work out exactly the way that you dreamed of, where it's like whatever I thought about when I was going to get married or how my marriage was going to be and what type of career I was going to have and, how many kids I was going to have, like it all just works out. So yeah, like not stressing about it and just, that you're going to figure it out along the way.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And I'll end with this. So every day I sit down and I ask myself, like, what are 3 things that I'm really grateful for? And I got to say, Teresa comes up every single day for like something else. And I'm not just saying that because she's here in front of me, but I'm saying that because I also take a time to reflect on it. And sometimes I think back to like literally how our lives intertwined by starting off at working as a security officer at Universal Studios. So when I think about this, and I think about, and maybe this will help you too, like when I think about like all the things that Teresa had to go through, all the things that I had to go through, and then somehow we still managed to like cross paths. And because of us crossing paths, now we're married, we have 2 amazing kids, we have all of these things that are like really going for us. We had a lot of stuff that didn't go so well that happened to us as well. But like all of these things and what had to happen in order for these things to kind of like come together. I mean, it just gives you a totally different perspective of like, man, I'm so lucky to have you, but also like just all of the things that happened, like in order for this to, I mean, it was fate. I mean, there's no other way that like you could say that like that this would have happened, right? It was bound to happen and it worked out this way for a reason. So I guess it's good to end with that. What do you think?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. I appreciate you guys for making it. It's 55 minutes long of a podcast. Regardless, we want to hear back from you, whether you enjoyed this, whether we should have more of these where we come on and we just answer some of your guys' questions, or if maybe this was a little bit too long. We honestly want to get your feedback. So if you could do us a huge favor, whether you go to our Instagram, which I'm Mark Hildebrand official, and what are you?
Teresa Hildebrand _coaching.
_coaching. Don't spell the word underscore, but put the underscore. and let us know what you think about this episode. This is episode number 664 from the Master Your Mindset with Coach Mark podcast. Teresa's going to have it as a different one on hers, but definitely reach out. Let us know what you think about this, what you liked, what you didn't like. We would highly appreciate it. And we appreciate you for making it here to the end of another podcast. We know there's hundreds of thousands of other podcasts, and you made it to the end of this 56-minute rant with Mark and Teresa. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you guys again real soon.
Bye.